Airing first on Asheville FM, WSFM LP 103.3 FM, this is The Final Straw, a weekly anarchist and anti-authoritarian radio show broadcasting out of occupied Cherokee land in southern Appalachia. We bring you voices and perspectives from projects and struggles all around the world.
On the show this week, I spoke with Tom Tanuki, frontman of the group Yelling at Racist Dogs, or YARD, a performance anti-fascist group that directs insulting yells at far-right xenophobic events and speakers. For the hour, we talk about Tom's background, the landscape of far-right politics in Australia, and the place of humor and public shaming in confronting racist public figures in the work that Tom and his comrades do. You can follow Tom on Twitter at the handle Tom_Tanuki, on Instagram with the same handle minus the underscore, and on Facebook by finding Yelling at Racist Dogs. And you can find their t-shirts and merch up at their Big Cartel page that's linked in our show notes. The interview we reference with Tom by Linda is from our Channel Zero Network Compatriot Subversion 1312 on 4ZZZ in Brisbane, Australia. We're also a proud member of Channel Zero Network, and here's a jingle from Subversion 1312.
Anarchism, a social philosophy which aims at the emancipation, economic, social, political, and spiritual of the human race.
Anarchism is not bombs, disorder, or chaos. It is not robbery or murder. It is not a war of each against all.
Anarchism is the very opposite of all that. Find out for yourself. Tune into Subversion 1312.
Live, Tuesdays 9 to 10 p.m.
on 4ZZZ 102.1 FM or streaming 4ZZZ.org.au.
Podcasts and related content available at subversion1312.org
and channelzeronetwork.com.
Conclusion?
We stand for anarchy, anti-capitalism, anti-racism, anti-authoritarianism, internationalism,
autonomy, direct democracy, ecology, self-organization, solidarity, anti-fascism, anti-neoliberalism,
anti-nationalism, atheism, equality, and freedom.
A couple of resources that Tom references at the end of the interview are Blackfulla Revolution and Black Feminist Ranter by Celeste Liddle, both pages on Fedbook. And the book on Australian history that he suggests is called Dark Emu by Bruce Pascoe. Stay tuned for an upcoming episode where we share my interview with Andy Fleming, the maniac behind SlackBastard, an exhaustive commentary on the far right in Australia as well as the tankie left, and Andy's thoughts on anarchism, antifa, and more, up at slackbastard.anarchobase.com.
What you say, what you say, what you say, what? We'll call like a
I am officially too dangerous for Ohio. On April 15th at 4 in the morning, the fart goblins raced to my cell at the Super Duper Max and dragged me away. I didn't even get to take my property, just a handful of legal papers. I got dressed out in orange transports, got handcuffed and shackled and belly chained. The only thing missing was the Hannibal Lecter hockey mask. And then the Special Response Team stormtroopers tossed me in a van. I bounced around in the back of the van for about 9 hours, accompanied by 2 urine pitchers, which I managed to fill. I wasn't told where I was going. In fact, I was left clueless until I got out of the van at a prison I didn't recognize. I asked the receiving officers where I was. They told me I'm in Virginia. Just to be clear, I was sent out of state without any process, without any explanation. I wasn't told where I was going, and I still don't know why I'm here. I've been assured by knowledgeable legal minds that absolutely none of this has even the appearance of legality. Irony of ironies, I'm only a few miles away from the very spot where Nat Turner led that bloody slave rebellion I wrote about, allegedly, in that article about using drones to drop guns into prisons. You know, the one now online, according to Earth First magazine's latest issue. You can check out my piece about hunger strikes along with the envelope art in that issue. Anyway, here I am in Virginia. Of course, I'm not really here. The Ohio dimwits of retribution and corruption insist I'm still held at the Corrections Reception Center, just south of Columbus. Even prison officials at that prison are maintaining that lie to anyone who calls, insisting I am not here in Virginia. I've been disappeared like a Bolivian union organizer standing up to Coca-Cola. Only the Banana Republic in question isn't in Central America, it's in Ohio. and it's run by ODRC Director Annette Chambers-Smith. For anyone keeping score at home, you'll remember me ranting about corporate sock puppet Gary C. Moore, the former ODRC Director, and his torturing sexual predator creep hatchet man lawyer Trevor Clark. With the changing of the guard and a new governor, I had hoped the new prisons director would take a new approach to the Swain question, that perhaps she would renounce torture and sexual abuse, that she would stop the trend of equating journalism and terrorism, stop criminalizing legitimate criticism of devastating public policy. I guess I was a little overly optimistic. Turns out, Annette Chambers-Smith is a former head of JPay, the corporate predator profiteer that serves as a metadata collection front for the FBI. She has no more regard for human rights or free speech or legality and propriety than Gestapo Gary had. Turns out, Annette is a real sociopath. She decided I'm too dangerous for Ohio. My 28 years of perfect rule compliance, while telling the public truth, was just too much. She came into office, climbing out of that little red car with a dozen of her closest friends, kicking each other in the pants with their big red clown shoes, and squirting each other in the face with their big plastic lapel flowers. Then they got to the grisly business of disappearing me for hurting her predecessor's feelings. For folks who tortured me for a year, they sure do snivel a lot. They're very sensitive, these fascist state terrorists, who plotted my murder, and so far failed. So, I arrived here without even my address book or phone numbers. My JPay email list is white. If you were in contact with me previously, please drop me a line at my new address as posted at SeanSwain.org and It's Going Down. And if you previously emailed me, please jump on my email list so we can kick it. You have to find me by my Virginia prison number, 2015638. I have no property, no TV, no fan, no mobile device, no CD player. All my clothes, my property collected over 28 years of false imprisonment is gone. No explanation. Even Virginia doesn't know what I'm doing here or why. One unnamed staffer here divulged to me in confidence that Ohio officials claim I had too much influence. Too much influence. Donald Trump has too much influence. Lobbyists in Washington have too much influence. Lawyers have too much influence. Henry Kissinger, the anti-Castro Cubans in Miami, Jared Kushner, and Kim Kardashian all have too much influence. But me? I think if I had any significant influence at all, I could use my clout to get out of prison, or persuade someone in power to stop state terrorists who embrace domestic torture. I have to think that if I had any influence at all, Annette Chambers-Smith and her entourage of fart goblin lackeys would be afraid to disappear me out of state and steal everything I own, for fear of serious retribution. I look around here at Nottoway Corruptional, and I don't see Donald Trump, or lobbyists, or lawyers, or Henry Kissinger, or Jared Kushner, or Kim Kardashian. So much for disappearing those with influence, huh? Simultaneous to my out-of-state transfer that they deny ever happening, the fart goblins initiated investigation of my good friend, Atom Bomb. Atom Bomb was a disabled vet of the oil wars, confined to a wheelchair due to his sacrifices for what he believed was freedom. And now the FBI and JPay are bullying him and tormenting him and blocking his communications because they know they can hurt me by hurting him. It's the same ruthless tactics they use to chase off former support folks. That's the kind of relentless and unscrupulous monsters we're up against. They beat up on disabled vets in wheelchairs for trying to make the world a better place. If the FBI has a problem, I wish they'd just send someone down here to handle it the old-fashioned way. I'm sure there's a room around here somewhere with no security cameras. If I leave that room with my nose bleeding and my back dirty, then maybe they can persuade me to think I said something wrong. But if that special agent leaves with his or her nose bleeding and back dirty, maybe the FBI cowards can leave my friends alone. Just an invitation. I'm at my optimum fighting weight. The good news, if there is any, is that the ODRC is out of bullets. There's nothing more they can do to me. Their decades-long dirty war has failed, and they've no ammunition left. My turn, like shooting fish in a barrel, take this work. For now, I'm going to give Virginia prison officials the benefit of the doubt and assume they just want a paycheck for holding me. that they don't intend on taking up the ODRC's dirty war by proxy. I've got bigger fish to fry. And to their credit, so far they've been fair with me. I'd like to remind them that Ohioans frequently shot Virginians in the Civil War. Virginia owes Ohio no allegiance. I have to take down the whole state of Ohio before August of 2021, my next scheduled parole hearing. A pretty daunting undertaking, I think. I might need some friends, and some plans, and some duct tape. So I plan to leave Virginia alone right now, so long as they leave me alone. That seems fair. Besides, the governor's busy. He's scrubbing that shoe polish off his face and moonwalking through press conferences while this lieutenant governor tries to grab his butt. Sorry, that was a cheap shot. Forget I said that. This is anarchist prisoner Sean Swain, disappeared by Ohio in a plausibly deniable black site in Burkeville, Virginia. If you're listening, you are the resistance.
You can write to Sean Swain at his new address and number at Sean Swain, number 2015638. Nottoway Correctional Center, P.O. Box 488, Burkeville, Virginia, 23922. To read more of Sean's writings and keep up on his case, visit seanswain.org. I'm on the line with Tom Tanuki, frontman of the group Yelling at Racist Dogs, or YARD. I hope that's an okay way to describe your position in that group, but thanks a lot for coming on, Tom.
Totally. Thank you so much. G'day to everyone from over in America and all your listeners. And thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. How did you get into the habit of showing up at Nazi rallies to troll them and screening obscenities at their obscenities? And does this just happen in one locale, or do you do it all around Australia?
Well, good question. I do it in Melbourne mostly, but there are sleeper cells of YARD, that's Yelling at Racist Dogs, members, or yardies as we call them, that do it all over the nation, and we're aiming for something wherein people can be doing it in every state. That'd be the ideal state of play for us. Australia is a big country, so it's a long way to get around, you know what I mean? So it would be ideal if we could have people doing it everywhere. Autonomous groups of people, as you say, screaming obscenities at people who scream obscenities. And the way that I got into it, well, I've been doing, I guess, active anti-fascist direct action stuff since 2016. My original, I guess, contribution to the world of anti-fascism was like a satirical comedy group. It was a fake patriot group, because in 2015-16 were big years for the rise of an Australian patriot movement. We largely, copied what was going on for a very long time in America and in the UK as well. And we saw our own patriot movement get established. And in response to that, I made a fake patriot group called Million Flag Patriots. Now, we had a very direct action, I guess, approach to those. The videos that we'd record with MFP as well. I'd be there at the rallies doing the same thing that they did. I made what I think was the world's first fake far-right rally. We had about 50 people rock up. We recorded an excellent video of a fake far-right rally, and they were all the terms on which I did that satirical project. It was very much about not just recording videos to take the piss out of the far-right or the Nazis or what have you at home. We wanted to be there doing what they do. But the patriot movement somewhat tapered off, and I noticed in about 2017-18 there was a new flavour to what constituted far-right, I guess, in real life presence in Australia. It was mostly touring rock star racists like Milo Yiannopoulos or Lauren Southern, like paid shows where people would rock up and go into an auditorium to watch them attack minorities. And so me and the people around me wanted to adjust our tactics somewhat. And so from out of that, we started YARD, which, as you say, is screaming obscenities, basically. It's the recording of funny, hopefully, filmed abuse towards big-name or well-known racists and other fascists in real life presences like rallies or what have you. You record all the footage, you get the best yells, you put them all together, and everyone has a good laugh online.
This is The Final Straw, and I'm Bursts. This is our conversation with Tom Tanuki of the Australian counter-trolling performance project Yelling at Racist Dogs. More on Yard can be found at their fedbook page. What sort of outcomes have you seen from either the online posting or from the bigots, like lost tempers, public shaming, counter-recruiting, like getting caught on the mainstream media and having your insults broadcast on there?
Well, the first thing I started to see was a very strange response, right? Because do you recall that whole mockery of the idea that words are violence that would come from sort of alt-right talking heads and what have you? I remember that was a big thing in 2016-17. There was a line about, that they liked mocking about the very concept that words can be violence.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly they were peddling that line very strongly because the boundaries of what constitutes yarding are very well defined. I'm very specific and I guess explicit about the idea that we're not out to get into fights with people. We are there to yell at them, and that's their kind of our righteous punishment that we visit upon them. So the first response was very much like that, and then things escalated somewhat when about 6 months into Yard, when Lauren Southern and Stefan Molyneux were doing a tour out in Australia. And what happened at that point was I did a post on the Yard page in no uncertain terms saying that, we're going to record all of you. We're going to say horrible things to you. We're going to upload the footage and everyone's going to laugh at you. That's what's going to happen here. And the tone of it, I guess, was very strident. But what it earned in response was the tour organisers started saying that we were terrorists and that it was a kind of an authoritarian terrorism that we were peddling. They said that they were speaking to Australian counter-terrorism advisors about us. And everything had just really... The whole consequence for our yelling had suddenly seemed to have shot through the roof. And indeed, once they were out here on tour, a woman who's a mate of mine over in Adelaide managed to bump into Lauren Southern, and those yells went around the world because Lauren Southern came outside her show to debate, in her inimitable style of debating, where you just ask people, where's the evidence, again and again. And this woman had come out and said to Lauren Southern, why are you such a racist dog? Now, that conversation was prepared between she and I had said to her, I said, ask her why she's a racist dog, because it's a bit hard to just walk up to someone when it's just the two of you and immediately start yelling. Like, it's a bit weird, But if she's inevitably going to start asking you where the evidence is, because that's all she ever does. That's her debating. So as she's doing that, start escalating the tone until you end up full bore yelling at her that she's a racist dog. It'll be more comfortable that way, as though the reason you're yelling at her is because you're so annoyed that she keeps asking you for the evidence for her being a racist dog. So that was the planned conversation, and that's exactly what she did. And by the end of it, she was screaming at her that she's a racist dog, and all of her fans are incels and they just want to smell her shampoo, and so on and so forth. Now, this conversation ended up on Shapiro's site, Daily Wire, all around. It just went all around, I guess, the world's alt-right, and it was meant to be it was meant to be from their perspective that another triggered SJW can't handle debating, so they end up screaming. But you know what? Look, Lauren Southern knew that there was a group called Yelling at Racist Dogs that were looking for her. And so when you know that there's a group called that and someone ends up yelling at you that you're a racist dog, it's not really someone being triggered, is it? It's just a performance. It's entirely to be expected that a member of Yard would yell that at you. So anyway, but this is what they do. They take these things and they need more instances to fill the triggered SJW narrative that they all love so much. So that's went around. I guess that one went around the world. It was very odd seeing our scrappy little Australian efforts published on the Daily Wire. And Yard's had a habit of doing that ever since. But, yeah, look, our tactics remain the same. We're there to issue out, to deal out righteous abuse to racists, and that's what we do.
Yeah, and I really appreciate the like humorous approach that y'all take, and yeah, it seems like it could, a thing like that could really undercut. They're going to edit things as they want to and present whatever stories they want to. Like, that's the beauty of computers being available to everyone. But yeah, I'm sure it inspired quite a few yellbacks.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear what you think about what role does humor and shame play in countering xenophobic scum? Like, when you recently spoke with Linda from Subversion 1312, she asked you about Egg Boy, and in case the audience members elsewhere missed it, can you talk a little bit about the egging of Senator Fraser Anning by Will Connolly?
Totally, because I imagine a lot of your listeners, no matter where they are around the world, know about that. Like, it was a very strange 24 hours, that period of time, but I'm pretty sure that Senator Fraser Anning went around the world in that time, and I imagine that many people from America were somewhat stunned that we had a person in one of our Houses of Parliament who is so overtly, I guess, Nazi. I mean, all of his staffers are veteran fascists. They've been, down in Australia, we've had people that have been attempting to infiltrate political parties, as fascists want to try to do. I mean, that's, seems to be part of fascist praxis 101, try and sneak into parties and organisations and undermine them. But, they've struck gold with Senator Fraser Anning, who'll basically just say whatever the fuck they want, So he said whatever the fuck he wanted in the wake of the terrible attack in Christchurch, which is, really, our neighbouring country down here. And he victim blamed the 50 dead people on Muslims and Muslim immigration. And I imagine that people all around the world, it certainly looked to me like people all around the world were very pissed off. We were very pissed off. I was so pissed off, not more than 3 or 4 hours after Christchurch, the Christchurch attack, that I was having a beer with the person that I started Yard with. And we flew into something of a rage over those tweets that he made, and we said we knew that he was going to be performing the next day, doing a speech for his budding political party in an industrial lot out in Moorabbin, which is a town about an hour out of Melbourne, and it's not a good area to go and do some sort of a counter event in. And that was what we were thinking about earlier. But but then this happened. And we were all just a bit too angry to say no. So we said, okay, then let's try and organise an event. And so we did. We told everyone about it through Yard's pages, through my pages, our bigger network. And, yeah, look, within 12 hours, 100 or more people to come along. We hadn't arranged it. They just came. People were just furious. They all came into the middle of fucking nowhere in this shitty little industrial estate. Not more than a little dangerous, I would add, and they all came because they were that angry. They all found their way there. And one of the people who found his way there was a young 17-year-old boy who came up to me on his bicycle and said to me, "Where's that senator? What's his name?" And I said, "Oh, you mean Senator Fraser Anning?" He said, "Yes." "Where is he?" I said, "Oh, he'd be inside that building we're yelling at the moment, mate." And he said to me, "Well, I've got some eggs. I want to throw them at him." And I said, "Oh, well, okay." I said, "Look, dude, that sounds amazing, but honestly, this guy has like a neo-Nazi security detail. They're pretty dangerous people. They're really shit people, and they're pretty violent people. And like, holster your eggs is my advice, and just get your yells out with us. Come on, let's do our yells." And obviously what this 17-year-old kid has done is then just gone, fuck what this old man has to say. I'm the youth of tomorrow. I'm the children of our future. I'm not listening to this conservative old fucking man tell me to play it safe. And he's just walked into that building full of, 50 to 100 neo-Nazi types. And he's, lightly tapped an egg on his head, which was amazing. But as I said to Linda in the podcast, as you were talking to me about before, I would like to think that without Yard's snap direct action, then Will Connolly wouldn't have known about the event or about Senator Fraser Anning, and thus we wouldn't have Egg Boy. That event was about as non-violent, I think, as direct physical contact could possibly go, you know? I mean, it was hilarious too. People got that kind of pressure valve release for their anger, which I think can really sour people if it lasts in them too long. And it also augments the sort of the villainous power that active neo-Nazis and such have over discourse, you know. As long as they're holding that position of power, then I think that they still capture people's attention. And undermining them with humour, or as the case may be, a free-range egg, is something that robs them of some of that power. And to me, that's the whole point. Getting back to your main question of like, what does humour do? Humour undermines them. Humour takes their power away. Neo-Nazis, fascists, organised racists, they don't want to be seen as objects of mirth, you know? Now, there's people have different approaches to this, of course they do, but that's my main contribution. I have, of course, heard from more than a few other leftists over the years who've said to me that, you know, why are you joking about this thing? You know, why don't you take it seriously? And of course I do. I'm motivated enough to have spent years, as for anyone who's a sort of veteran anti-fascist or what have you, at considerable cost to my own life. Like, it's changed my life a lot. You know, I'm motivated enough to organise direct action against these pricks for years, you know. But I believe in the power of humour in robbing them of their power. And I also think that for a lot of them, I mean, my personal opinion is that a lot of these movements, alt-right, patriot movement, whatever, they love the idea that they're political movements. But I consider them to be performances as much as anything. You know, it is a kind of a performance to bolster their identities within their sort of little in-groups and to gain them praise and points amongst each other online. Most organised racist groups are in some sort of weird cooked, you know, rise to the top of the ladder. They're trying to be number one. You know, it's a performance of sorts. And so I consider I'd rather perform back against them. That at least that robs them of this false notion that they're political groups. I don't believe in their politics. I don't think their own politics are sound. I think their bigotry is sound, but I don't think their politics are sound. I think they are all performances, and the best, in my opinion, that they deserve is shit stirrers like me, you know, and difficult groups like us who pelt abuse at them and make them look like idiots. At least that keeps them in the realm that I think they ought to be firmly confined to, which is just a bunch of losers putting on a performance to impress each other.
This is The Final Straw, and I'm Bursts. This is our conversation with Tom Tanuki of the Australian counter-trolling performance project Yelling at Racist Dogs. More on Yard can be found at their fedbook page.
Bringing up the personal danger that you've put yourself in, later on I'll be talking to Andy Fleming of SlackBastard. And Andy is a pseudonym, as I understand. I assume that Tom is your real name, and there are pictures of you up on the web everywhere.
Totally,
can you talk about your choice to vocally organize and taunt racists, and has that led to threats or attacks on you in public or private?
Yeah, look, it's led to real-life run-ins with people. It's led to people publicising my address online, tens of thousands of death threats. You know, I've reshaped, I guess, my personal life considerably to suit the circumstances of the things that I do, I guess, online and at rallies. But I used to do an older group in which I had my identity hidden. I was mentioning to you earlier about the Million Flag Patriots. You know, I wore a face mask that I'd made for that character because I was playing a character most of that time. But partway through that, I got doxxed. So, you know, that's been something that's been fun. But yeah, look, I mean, I've the full gamut of experiences you could expect to happen. Had real life run-ins, had the doxing, had the tens of thousands of death threats. But after a while, after a couple of years of it, and after I was reconciled with the fact that my face was out there, at one point I said to myself, this is what I do. Like, this is really what I do. This isn't for me, you know, I create comedy, I do ideas, there's satirical stuff, some of it's earnest commentary, you know, some of it's the direct action stuff. There's a whole range of things I do, but they are what I do. This isn't some sort of self-promotional exercise in order to prepare myself for some other platform. This is the thing that I do. This is who I am. So I did want to, I guess, put my face and my name to the whole exercise at some point. Yeah, yes, my name's Tom. I mean, Tanuki's a pseudonym, but yeah, with my face behind everything, and I've already been doxed, so my info's online. So at some point, I said to myself, there was actually a great relief in reconciling, I guess, myself and my own name and face, given the things that I do, you know, talking into a camera and such, with reconciling my face and my identity with my name and what have you, and just being out there and having my name out there online. I actually wish that there were more white blokes involved in anti-fascism. White blokes not necessarily, but just people who are, you know, I'm a small target. You know, I take my face mask off like I had on with Million Flag Patriots. And what can you say to me? You know, I'm not just a white bloke, I'm also one with a pretty heavy Australian accent. I'm a big bloke. There's not much that they can say to me. If I were a woman doing this, if I were a black person doing this, if I were queer and doing this, we know that the response would be more vicious. I know that. I've seen that with comrades who are part of those groups, or a multiplicity of those groups. What happens to them? Of course the nastiness rises up, because those organised fascist groups are all about their bigotry. I'm using the fact that I'm a small target. I guess it's a real blessing, you know, because I'm able to just put my face to things, and I don't have to worry about that anymore. I wish that there were more people that were doing it, but I can't exactly, you know, I can't recommend it to anyone that's outside of anti-fascism, because it does come with a bit of strife. You know what I mean? But then again, look, young Will Connolly just came out the other week with his name and his face attached to everything, and just smashed an egg on Fraser Anning's head, and now he's like received this hero worship from half of Australia and the world. So just quite, you know, I kind of wonder to myself if he's like activated this next generation of young light anti-fascist kids, and I think that's amazing. I wish there were more people that were in a position or to be able to do it, to take their pseudonyms away and just put their face out there. I think if that were to start to rise, then anti-fascism and what have you would become a lot more accepted. But at the same time, given all the troubles I've been through, I totally understand why people need to be able to hide. People have jobs, they have real lives, you know. They don't want to have to move house 3 times.
It seems like in the U.S., at least, which is the context that I'm more familiar with, the doxings that I've seen of anti-fascists in general, if it's just about somebody being an anti-fascist and organizing politically around that perspective, they're not the ones who are in danger usually of losing their jobs. Like, you know, it's when someone's a part of Adam Waffen or something like that, and it comes out that they work in a cafeteria and they're also writing screeds online about racial holy war and stuff like that their coworkers and employers generally don't appreciate it. But yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you could say that about most anti-fascists. What have we done that's wrong? You know what I mean? Annoyed some racists. Like, I've done some pretty... I think this would probably net a more hostile reception over in America. But, you know, here I did a video as part of that satirical Patriot project. I hung 20 Australian flags up to an iconic Australian clothesline that we have called the Hills Hoist, which is like a spinning backyard clothesline. And then I burned them all. I covered them all in petrol and burned them. And that was the video. And that's pretty outlandish. And I do think that probably maybe some employers would be pretty pissed off about that.
Yeah.
And again, that was years ago now. And I've kind of written articles in mainstream you know, or independent journals, you know, for news in Australia and what have you about that and about the theory behind that. I've been able to articulate what I was doing there. What are you going to be able to articulate about why you were part of the Atomwaffen division? You know what I mean? Are any journals going to accept your think piece about why you were planning for holy race war?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fundamentally different, isn't it? We don't have anything really to hide, you know?
But we can still be harassed as individuals. So, I mean, that's, you know.
Totally. Yep.
Yeah. And which also makes our work less effective in a lot of cases, depending on the kind of work that we're doing.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it takes a complete diversity of tactics. You know, later you're going to be speaking, you know, if you speak to Andy Fleming later on, you're speaking to someone there who they're withholding their identity is because, you know, it's not, they don't just make a bunch of smart ass videos like I do, you know, or even go out and do the direct action stuff or what have you, but they're working researching and documenting far-right activities. And the other researchers that I know around Andy, or you know, who work parallel to Andy, I mean, you know, that kind of work will be the work that puts people in jail. You know, that finds out before someone commits another terrorist attack like Christchurch or like the synagogue shooting in Pittsburgh or one of these other range of things. They're the ones that will find out about the information and put it out there into the world and probably save lives. So, you know, in another sense, they've got a hell of a lot more to fear from organised fascists than someone like me does, you know? Yeah.
But like you said, I think the work complements each other. So
you need a bunch of people. Yeah. When I was saying earlier, I wish more people would join me in what I do. You know, it seems to be a very alluring prospect to become a far right talking head. And you know, there's part of me that wishes that there were more people who were putting their name and face to over the top kind of, I guess, humorous anti-fascist activities there, because it can be a pretty dour, sour sort of world, you know. My job, in my opinion, is to try and create a bit of energy. You know, I think that the world, if you're monitoring the activities of the worst pieces of shit in your country, it's a draining exercise, you know? You're like watching and reading and communicating amongst other people what the worst, most horrible people are up to. That's not fun. You know, that's not like a walk in the park or a day at the beach, you know. And so if you can convert all that negativity into humour, which is a form of energy provision, you know, it raises people's energy levels because it puts them in a good mood. If you can do that, then, you know, people have enough energy to go on and maybe do those other more important things that we were talking about, like research. So yeah, diversity of tactics, my dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like a fist, clutching red, discord and feeling hurt like the grid that they lock in the silence. We'll be super stoned to what we grow is what we earn, but we won't steal from the land what's really given. Tear up the keys to the land, roll the jets into the furnace, and to God, to the banks and to the landlines. Draw your armor, draw your hell, with the force of an old
Are there any yardings you're especially proud of, or any techniques that you'd suggest to beginners?
Look, I'm very much about understanding what the particular event is, or who the person is, and then shaping my yarding in response to that person. So, I'll want to understand who the most big name racists, or what the situation there is, and shape my responses to suit. I mean, you would have heard this in the conversation with Linda earlier, but I'm very proud of an early series of yardings we did with a guy called Avi Yemeni. He's a ultra Zionist. He's like an Israeli far-right talking head. Ultra-Zionist, ex-IDF soldier, lives in Australia, and complete, absolute narcissist. Just, he's absolute. He reminds me of, who's that guy? Who's that I Need Milk guy? Baked Alaska.
Yeah. I was thinking of Chris Cantwell, the crying Nazi. But yeah, Baked Alaska also got, like, pretty good gut.
Yeah, so Baked Alaska always had this real thing about him that he needed, you could tell it was different with him. He needed his face to be in the videos all the time. Do you know what I mean? Like, he had that thing where, like, it was that next level narcissism, and he just needed for you to see every moment of his life in a way that maybe even the other egomaniacs didn't. He just needed to constantly have his face there. Avi Yemeni reminds me a little bit of Baked Alaska in that way. There's just this constant, never-ending black hole into which attention and views and shares and likes need to be poured in all day, and it'll never be filled for them. So they can never make enough videos, they can never do enough stunts to ever satisfy their unending thirst to be validated by being an asshole. So there's a similarity there with the two of them, but Avi Yemeni was out at a rally, and it was a pro-Palestinian rights demo that had been organised, and we'd heard that Avi Yemeni was coming along to counter that rally. So we went along, and Yard had just been created a month or two earlier, and we all went along there, and Avi was there. He was doing a mentally prepared speech, and he was talking to everyone about how the left always call him neo-Nazis, and they're doing it right now. He was doing a live stream video. He's going, this is all the left ever say. Listen to them right now. They call us Nazis, They think that we're all Nazis. It's the only word that they have for us. Listen to them right now. But the thing is, Avi Yemeni's a very short person, and I'm told I body shame a bit here, but I frankly think that this tactic lives and dies with Avi Yemeni. We engage in the puerile tactic of talking about how small he is. We're calling him a tiny racist. Not because we really care about what size his body is, but just because it's not the subject that he wanted us to talk about. Which is, he wants us, he feels empowered when we call him a neo-Nazi, because it augments his speech where he can tell everyone, of course I'm not a Nazi, I just love my country. That's become a ritual by now. They actually feed off of those chants. And at the same time on his live stream that he's saying that the left are all calling him neo-Nazis, you can then clearly hear us all chanting the words tiny racist at him, and, talking to him about standing up on other people's shoulders, and, observing the fact that the flag he's waving is larger than his body is, and things like that. And that's really fucking dumb and stupid. But it also happened to be something that completely put him off his game. And you can see it in his own live stream, which has sadly been deleted along with his page now. But you can see how disconcerted he was by the fact that we had just gone lowball, childish and ridiculous on him. It didn't give him the villainous reputation that he wanted. There's another one. We have a I guess locally well-known neo-Nazi organiser who's been around since the early days of that Patriot movement that I mentioned. His name's Blair Cottrell. And he came out the front during when Lauren Southern and Stefan Molyneux were doing their show here. Blair Cottrell's addicted to steroids. He has been for quite a long time anyway. I don't know if he is right now. But that's the fact is he'd had a steroid addiction for a very long time. And look, the thing about steroid addiction, so they say, is that it might lead to erectile dysfunction. I don't know about that, but, maybe Blair does. But anyway, Blair came out the front during this, while they were waiting for the show to begin, and you could see that the other protesters immediately started to do the thing that they're best at doing, which is chanting and doing the old sort of, traditional rally chants. No, not just here. Hey, 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 hey. That kind of thing, the usual chanting. I'm not shitting on that kind of thing, but it is kind of like we can all do this stuff together in turns, but it is kind of the opposite to yarding,
Yeah.
And as I said before with Avi Yemeni, it empowers these people. It's become such a ritual, predictable thing that they now seek it out as a source of self-empowerment, because it makes them look like, I'm the big tough, organised racist leader that can start these people chanting just with my presence. And he came out and they all started chanting, and you could see this big beaming smile on his face. He had some professional TV camera people filming him. The idea was, let's get some cool footage of Blair Cottrell being chanted at by hysterical lefties. But then there was a moment when the yells went into a bit of a lull, and myself and the other guy who started yard immediately started bellowing at him from the other side of the police line about how his dick doesn't work, and you can't save the white race, can you, if your dick doesn't work? And we were screaming this at him, and the difference was so palpable. Everyone started laughing at him. There was no more chance, and the smile just dropped off his face, and you could see it. It was just a complete change in the air. In fact, because if you're being a real fucking idiot, you can make the other Nazis laugh at the Nazi too, right? So that's what happens. They start laughing at their own leader because they can't help themselves, because it's just stupid. And suddenly he doesn't have that power anymore. And you could see within seconds he'd turned around and he'd walked away. Because we just made him look like a fucking idiot by being as puerile as possible. There's some of my favourite yard instances, but we've honestly had many of them. To me, the potential and the power of this kind of thing has been proven before my eyes time and again, There's no way that you can look good as long as you have prepared the best yells you can that might undermine this person, as much as possible. I mean, we do have things that we don't say, of course. We don't just launch any abuse. We are anti-fascists after all. We think about the things that we're going to say, We don't just launch any old slur. It's not that kind of event, And if I ever hear someone saying things that, I'll pull them up, We hopefully make that clear with every new video about the things that we will and won't do, But nevertheless, the power of it has been proven to be time and again.
This is The Final Straw, and I'm Bursts. This is our conversation with Tom Tanuki of the Australian counter-trolling performance project Yelling at Racist Dogs. More on Yard can be found at their fedbook page.
Not to give away too many secrets, but are there any upcoming engagements that y'all plan to attend?
We have a federal election coming up in a few weeks. I'm trying to agitate people to get me far-right politician yells. If I could find Fraser Anning myself, not egg him, I don't have any eggs on me, but if I could just yell at him, mano e mano, that would be fucking amazing. So I'm trying to agitate people towards doing that. I don't know about any other events, but it always seems to be the case that we find out about something 72 hours before it happens, and we have to quickly organise people and rock up there. So I don't have anything on the horizon. I only really have the fact that there's the federal election, and currently that means that we've got all the politicians out doing the rounds. And to me, that's more for the ones who are known racists. That's more powerful than any bloody far-right neo-Nazi rally. I want filmed yells of them. And hey, can I say something? While I'm speaking to an audience that has people from around the world in it...
Yeah, please.
I think America needs Yard. I really do. And I've had multiple people message me from over there. But I really believe if we just have some people who already consistently attend rallies, have a sense of humour, and are willing to actually start assembling people and getting out there, please let them hit me up, This can't just be an Australian thing. I believe that Yard needs to go worldwide.
And how would they get a hold of you, or how can they find your work Tom?
They can contact me on my page, which is the Tom Tanuki page, Tanuki, or they can also reach out through the Yelling at Racist Dogs page. Now, Yelling at Racist Dogs is just on Facebook at this stage, but I myself am also on Twitter and Instagram, all the same name. So if people want to reach out and talk about ideas, then they can certainly do that. Oh, can I also say one other thing? Mm-hmm. That at the moment we're doing a pre-order run of shirts, yard shirts, and they will be ending on April the 30th. And if anyone wants to grab those shirts, yes, I do international shipping, but from this round of those shirts, 100% of the profits will be going to a local Muslim-run charity. We're doing that as a show of solidarity with the Muslim community in the wake of Christchurch. And we just thought it'd be a good look in that way, you know what I mean? To show people that, yeah, we might be a bunch of very difficult, obnoxious, abusive people, but we are also community-minded. So if people want to make a start on establishing an international yard branch, what better a way to start that off than by getting themselves a fresh yard t-shirt? And they actually look really fucking good, so get on it.
I gotta say, y'all's merch game is pretty good. I really like some of the other past ones that I've seen, especially the incorporation of
Ned Kelly.
Yeah, Ned Kelly. Thank you. Like, those patches look pretty tight.
Thank you. I really believe in, I guess, co-opting. There's a kind of a mythology that's like slowly being established with yard stuff, in which, like, you know, I believe in having good merch and having good logos and what have you, because it inspires people. Like, you know, the better the party you're throwing looks like, the more people will want to join it. And yeah, that's about the quality of the videos that you release and like how funny we are at the time and how much people enjoy it all. But I think it's also about the merch. Like, the better it all looks, the better the whole movement looks, I think, you know. And yeah, the mythology that we're slowly establishing is about sort of co-opting Australiana, mm-hmm. or classic images of Australian symbolism. When I first made those shirts, I mean, Ned Kelly, I don't know how many people say in America know, but Ned Kelly is a very famous Australian bushranger, who wore a full suit of metal when confronting the police before he got shot and then captured. That got co-opted by racists, you know, to the point where he's a very famous figure, and he was by no means himself a racist, but people, you know, when racists co-opt things like that little OK white power sign, suddenly a lot of lefties are convinced that you can't co-opt that shit back, and I'm like, fuck that. I will co-opt it back so well that then they won't be able to use it because it's my thing. You know what I mean? So that's the idea with some of that. We just want to co-opt it back, and we have a broader thing where we just want to get those symbols of like powerful Australiana or what have you and turn them into classic yard things. There's this sort of idea that we're trying to seed that yarding is our most ancient sport and cultural practice that dates back since the inception of time. Of course, if we study reality and we're aware of that, we know that we're a pretty systemically racist colonial outpost, you know, but that doesn't mean that we can't imagine and dream that yelling at racist dogs was our most powerful and ancient ritual since the dawn of time. That's what we're trying to seed there. And I guess, you know, if you can augment that idea by having cool t-shirts and sick merch. So that's what some of the aim of that game is. But thank you. I'm glad you like the shirts. They are really good.
Yeah, they really are. Also, yeah, it seems like you're pulling from the same historical thread as Yahoo Serious did when he made his revision of the Ned Kelly story years back. Did you ever see that?
Yeah, I did. That's a good point. I hadn't thought about the Yahoo Serious movie. I'm gonna have to get back and have another look at that, man. That's a good point there. There might be some source material inside of that movie for me to think about, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that character's like obviously like anti-racist and definitely like a class warrior for the working class and all sorts of other really positive positive role model things, I think.
Yeah, I don't think that we should all be scared of a bit of fun psyop and a bit of fun reimagining of things to create a bit of energy ourselves. You know, I think that we should actively get in there and be trying to create fun images and symbols and what have you. I mean, memes and what have you. There's already a lot of left pages that have a pretty strong game in that respect. But yeah, like new symbols, new things to rally behind. I make no bones about the fact that that Yard is anti-fascist and thus therefore antifa. But no need to, we've already got a strong existing bed of antifa imagery and symbolism to draw on. But I love the idea of creating new clean slate movements with new sets of imagery and what have you. It's the whole diversity of tactics thing is comes into play there. It's like diversity of imagery and vibes as well. Yard is a new clean slate, and we can invest in that, a series of symbols and ideas that you can't necessarily do in very old established movements, and that allows you to be creative. And I think if you're being creative, to me that's the very opposite of like fascism and Nazism or what have you. Like often I've always thought that my best some of the best responses to racism are by, getting together with different kinds of sick creative people, being able to come up with fun responses, To me, it's among the best responses because it keeps people energized and keeps them laughing and keeps them happy, It keeps them in the fight.
It's a really big question, but can you talk about, you mentioned like, we live in a very racist settler colonial society and, being in the U.S. and being of European descent, like I'm also a settler colonist of generations past in this scenario. I don't get a chance very often to talk to people from other Anglo-settler colonial societies, but can you talk about what that looks like in Australia and how it informs the anti-racist work that Yard does?
Totally, I can talk about that. It influences the fact that we live in a colonial outpost established in the late 1700s, which sought to displace and to erase Indigenous people, and did not successfully do so, but certainly tried. The fact that we have a cultural amnesia about our true history, predating those late 1700 dates of invasion. The fact that we have that amnesia and have this, I guess, white supremacist framework of understanding our culture and our history and our relationship as white people, as settler, colonists, as you say, to Aboriginal people, undermining and subverting all of that influences absolutely everything I do. So Yard's very direct action, and it's very much about going out and responding to and making fun of fascists and racists. So it's very, very specific in that respect. But absolutely, these things influence everything that I do. Most of the work, people that, if you follow my page and the videos that I do and the work that I do for some time, you'll see me mention this stuff in no small order. I believe that Australian people need to be reminded of what we did when we came here, which was a very brutal series of efforts aimed at displacement, genocide, attempted genocide, failed attempts at genocide, and forced assimilation, stealing children from their parents to force them to assimilate into this white hole. These efforts to try and get people to reckon with that, to understand that, and to understand their role in that in Australia in 2019, it affects everything I do. Absolutely everything. It is a huge part of my understanding here. One of my main goals is to get people, the average person in Australia, no matter who they are or what background they are, to be thinking about those things more regularly than I guess our mainstream media or our mainstream consciousness gets them to be thinking about it. We have this thing, we have these certain periods of time every year. We have January the 26th is what's known as Australia Day, or for most Indigenous people and their allies, it's known as Invasion Day, because that's what it's sort of really what it heralds. It heralds the invasion by colonists into Australia, colonialist sort of, explorers and conquerors into Australia. And we have this big sort of national identity-based debate every January, in which all the racists come out. And, I'm sure you have all the same tropes about Indigenous people over in America. That over here it's about drug addiction and domestic violence and all these kinds of things, and and constant dependence on welfare, and all of these tropes are wheeled out to undermine Indigenous people's claim to sovereignty. But I support it. In fact, my support is secondary. I acknowledge the fact of their claim to sovereignty over this place. They were the first people here, and in the case of Australia, it's very important to note that Indigenous peoples of Australia were here for so fucking long, so many tens of thousands of years, that the current best ideas we have is that they actually predate the out of Africa theory, therefore debunking it. Not debunking it, it certainly happened, the passage of people out of Africa and over various other continents. But the fact is that the earliest dating of things, of whether it be, archaeological finds like old ovens or middens or remains, human remains or what have you, suggests that the Indigenous Australian people predate the out of Africa theory. I think that's fucking amazing. I think we've got a lot to be proud of here. We have the world's earliest evidence of bread making here. The world's oldest bread makers. A whole ton of amazing finds. I could just go on for ages, actually, because I find it fucking amazing, and I think it's the history that we have to be the most proud of here, more than any very, very recent, 200 or more years old colonialist expansion. I think that's our true history, and I everything I do, certainly as myself, I try to remind people of that fact and get them thinking about it. I mean, particularly white people. White Australians, we are absolute professionals at forgetting our history, you know what I mean? And forgetting the history of this country, and sort of saying that everyone black who came before us needs to assimilate with us, and everyone Muslim or what have you who came after us also needs to assimilate with us. Like, we've got this white Goldilocks belt of white supremacist perfection in the middle, and everyone else must come and accommodate us, I find it amazing and delusional, and everything I do is about trying to get people to get out of that delusional mind state.
Are there any resources that you'd like to point listeners to so they can learn more about some of what we talked about here, either about like other attempts at either like troubling like decolonization, or about the history of Australasia and the peoples, or any other projects you want to shout out?
There's when it comes to decolonization, and actually when it comes to the true history of Australia, there's one book that I would recommend to anyone from here or from overseas. If you want to understand how amazing and impressive and like mind-boggling the certainly not very broadcasted achievements of Indigenous Australians are, there's an amazing book called Dark Emu by Bruce Pascoe. I just finished reading it not long ago, and I think that covers the best of what's known about the history that over 60,000+ years of the Indigenous Australian people, which is incredible and complex and just so amazing. So that's a book that'll teach you that. In terms of ongoing stuff for Indigenous rights and Indigenous discussions, look, I'm sure there's a million pages that will come to my mind as soon as we're done with this conversation, but the one off the top of my head that's a good hub for a bunch of other pages is Blackfulla Revolution, and that's BLACKFULLA Revolution. Oh, and also an Indigenous femo, amazing genius mate of mine called Celeste Liddle. Her page is called Black Feminist Ranter, Celeste Liddle. And for a really studied, very intellectual, ongoing take, but also funny, ongoing take on I guess, Indigenous politics and feminist politics and just politics in Australia, I would suggest that people follow her. Please follow me. Please follow Yard. And also, I mean, you're going to be talking to Andy Fleming soon. There's no one better to follow to get a broad overall take of what's happening with fascism and neo-Nazism in Australia than SlackBastard. I mean, just go on SlackBastard's blog and read the many years worth of old archived articles about neo-Nazism here and what have you. It's a pretty intriguing history. It's changed and shifted over the time. I think it probably models itself very much on what goes on over in America. I think they take their cues here from what goes on over there. For the far right in Australia, SlackBastard's your man. I've run a very distant place behind SlackBastard. He'd be the person to follow.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Tom, so much for this conversation, and again for all that you do. Good luck.
B, thank you so much. Thank you to all your listeners for listening, for making it through. And cheers. Thank you very much.
You just heard our conversation with Tom Tanuki about the project he works on called Yelling at Racist Dogs. Yard shows up where xenophobes enjoy the sun, to coyly insult and shame them. More of their work can be found on various social media platforms. If you're in Asheville on May 1st, Wednesday, there are a few events that we're happy to share about. At 10 a.m., there's a Rad Families meetup at the Vermont Avenue Playground in West Asheville Park. Buncombe County schools are closed due to call-ins by teachers as a part of the organizing wave known as Red for Ed. And there's a large march and rally in Raleigh, the state capital. For those unable to make it, there's an 11 a.m. rally by teachers at the Vance Monument downtown. Festivities in West Asheville begin at 3 p.m. at the same said park on Vermont Avenue with a roving bike ride with some extra bikes provided. This will be followed at 4:30 p.m. by a game of kickball, and at 6 p.m. a short parade will commence from 644 Haywood Road, complete with a marching band. At 7:30 there will be a potluck with free vegan and gluten-free options, and finally a public showing of the working classic 9 to 5 featuring Dolly Parton. More info can be found at tfsr.wtf/AVL Mayday.
This is The Final Straw, and I'm William Goodenough. The show will later be archived at thefinalstrawradio.noblogs.org, and you can email us with questions or suggestions at thefinalstrawradio@riseup.net or thefinalstrawradio@protonmail.com. If you'd like to use any episode for your project or radio show, feel free to do so. Just send us an email to let us know. If you care to, you can send us letters at The Final Straw, P.O. Box 6004, Asheville, North Carolina 28816. This show is brought to you by Firestorm Books and Coffee. Located at 610 Haywood Road, Firestorm Books and Coffee is a worker-owned cooperative in Asheville, specializing in offbeat, underground, and independent literature. You can find a sample of Firestorm's catalog of books and zines, plus a full calendar of events at their website, firestorm.coop.